What if the deepest truths about our existence, the very fabric of reality, aren't found in ancient texts or hidden scrolls, but within the shimmering, elusive dance of quantum particles and the boundless expanse of our own consciousness? What if the universe isn't a collection of separate things, but a single, pulsating field of awareness, and we, in our individual lives, are simply ripples on its surface? This isn't just a philosophical question. It's a profound spiritual paradox that whispers to us from the very edge of scientific discovery and ancient wisdom. It asks us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about ourselves, our purpose, and the nature of reality. It invites us to step beyond the ordinary and into a realm where the observer truly shapes what is observed, where thought can manifest, and where our inner world holds the key to understanding the outer. Could it be that our deepest spiritual longings are not just yearnings, but echoes of a fundamental truth about our interconnectedness with all things? And if so, how does this understanding transform our everyday lives, our relationships, and our ability to find peace and purpose in a world that often feels chaotic and disconnected? For millennia, humanity has grappled with the fundamental questions of existence. Who are we? Why are we here? What is the nature of reality? Long before the advent of telescopes and particle accelerators, ancient civilizations sought answers not in external observation, but through profound introspection and spiritual practice. Consider the ancient Vedic seers in India, whose intricate cosmology described a universe arising from a single, undifferentiated consciousness, Brahman. Their texts, like the Upanishads, speak of Atman, the individual soul, being identical with Brahman, the universal consciousness. Tattvam Asi, thou art that, is perhaps the most famous declaration of this non-dual truth, suggesting that our individual awareness is not separate from, but an integral part of, the divine ground of being. This wasn't just a philosophical concept. It was a lived reality, cultivated through meditation, yoga, and a deep understanding of energy flows within the body and the cosmos. Similarly, the Taoist sages of ancient China, like Laozi, spoke of the Tao, an ineffable, unnameable principle that underlies and permeates all existence. The Tao is not a god or a creator in the traditional sense, but the natural order, the way of the universe. To live in harmony with the Tao means to align oneself with this flow, to embrace paradox, and to understand that all apparent opposites are merely two sides of the same coin. The concept of yin and yang, the complementary forces that bring balance and dynamism to the universe, reflects this understanding of interconnectedness and constant transformation. The Tao Te Ching, a foundational text, encourages a return to simplicity, a letting go of ego, and an embrace of emptiness as the source of all potential. In the West, we find echoes of these ideas in the mystical traditions. The Neoplatonists, inspired by Plato's concept of a transcendent realm of forms, believed in a single ultimate reality, the one from which all existence emanates. Plotinus, a central figure in Neoplatonism, described the soul's ascent back to this one through contemplation and purification, a journey of returning to its source. Even within Abrahamic traditions, mystical branches like Kabbalah in Judaism, Sufism in Islam, and Christian mysticism speak of a direct, unmediated experience of the divine, often transcending conventional dogma and emphasizing the immanence of God within creation and within the human heart. Meister Eckhart, a medieval Christian mystic, famously preached of the Godhead that lay beyond even God, an unknowable, unmanifest source from which all arises, and within which the soul could find its true home. These traditions, though diverse in their cultural expressions, share a common thread: the belief that reality is fundamentally unified, conscious, and that human beings are not merely physical bodies, but spiritual beings capable of experiencing this unity directly. Fast forward to the 20th century, and a startling convergence began to emerge. The revolutionary discoveries of quantum physics, delving into the subatomic realm, began to challenge the classical Newtonian view of a predictable, mechanistic universe. Suddenly, particles weren't behaving like tiny billiard balls, they were behaving like waves, existing in multiple places at once, and their very nature seemed to be influenced by the act of observation. The famous double-slit experiment, where particles act as waves when unobserved and as particles when observed, shattered the notion of an objective, independent reality. As Werner Heisenberg, one of the pioneers of quantum mechanics, famously stated, "What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning." This profound insight suggested that consciousness, the observer, might play a far more fundamental role in shaping reality than previously imagined. This idea, that consciousness is not merely an emergent property of the brain, but might be a fundamental aspect of the universe, resonates deeply with ancient spiritual teachings. What if the field of potential described by quantum mechanics is akin to the Tao or Brahman, an underlying unified field of consciousness from which all manifest reality emerges? This isn't just a poetic metaphor. It's a bridge between the wisdom of the ancients and the cutting edge of modern science, inviting us to explore a universe that is far more alive, interconnected, and responsive than we ever dared to imagine. It challenges us to move beyond a purely materialistic worldview and embrace a more holistic understanding of existence, where spirit and matter are not separate, but two sides of the same coin. Imagine, for a moment, that your thoughts aren't just confined within your skull, but are ripples in a vast, interconnected ocean of consciousness. This isn't some far-fetched New Age fantasy, but a concept gaining traction as we explore the fascinating parallels between quantum physics and ancient spiritual wisdom. Think about the concept of superposition in quantum mechanics. A particle exists in all possible states simultaneously until it is observed. It's like a cloud of possibilities. Only when consciousness, through observation, interacts with it does it collapse into a single, definite state. Now, apply this to your own life. What if your reality, your experiences, your very future exists as a cloud of possibilities until your consciousness, through your beliefs, intentions, and focus, collapses one of those possibilities into being? Consider the metaphor of a dream. In a dream, everything you perceive, the characters, the landscapes, the events, is created by your own mind. Yet, within the dream, it feels incredibly real and external. When you wake up, you realize it was all an emanation of your consciousness. What if our waking reality is, in some profound sense, similar? Not that it's not real, but that its nature is deeply intertwined with, and perhaps even generated by, a larger collective consciousness, of which our individual consciousness is a part. This idea resonated deeply with thinkers like Carl Jung, who proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared human experiences, archetypes, and knowledge that transcends individual minds. He saw synchronicity, meaningful coincidences, not as mere chance, but as evidence of an underlying interconnectedness, a meaningful parallelism between the inner and outer worlds, suggesting that the universe is not just random, but imbued with a deeper order and purpose. Another compelling analogy comes from the realm of light. Imagine light as both a wave and a particle. It doesn't choose one or the other. It is both, depending on how it's observed. Similarly, perhaps our reality is both material and non-material, both fixed and fluid, both individual and interconnected. Our perception, our consciousness, acts like the observer, determining which aspect of reality comes into focus. This isn't to say that we just think things into existence in a simplistic way, but rather that our internal state, our beliefs, emotions, and intentions, aligns us with certain frequencies or possibilities within the quantum field of potential, making them more likely to manifest in our experience. This is the essence of many spiritual practices, from prayer and affirmations to visualization and meditation. They are all, in a sense, practices of intentional focus, designed to align our inner world with the outer reality we wish to create or experience. Think of the placebo effect, a powerful testament to the mind's ability to influence the body. A patient believes they are receiving a potent medicine, and even if it's just a sugar pill, their body often responds as if it were the real drug, sometimes even curing serious ailments. This isn't magic. It's the profound power of belief and expectation shaping biological reality. If our beliefs can influence our physical health, what else can they influence? What if our collective beliefs and intentions are constantly shaping the world around us, from social structures to global events? This understanding places a profound responsibility on each of us to cultivate positive, empowering beliefs, not just for our own well-being, but for the collective good. Consider the profound transformation that occurs when someone shifts from a victim mentality to one of empowerment. They might be in the same external circumstances, but their internal shift changes their perception, their actions, and ultimately their outcomes. This isn't just psychological. It touches upon the idea that our internal state acts as a magnet, attracting experiences that resonate with our dominant vibration. If we constantly dwell on lack and limitation, we tend to perceive and attract more of the same. If we cultivate gratitude and abundance, we open ourselves to seeing and receiving more of that. This isn't a simplistic name-it-and-claim-it philosophy, but a recognition of the subtle yet powerful interplay between our inner landscape and the external world. The stories of individuals who have overcome seemingly insurmountable odds often highlight this principle. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, observed that those who found meaning and purpose even in the most horrific conditions were more likely to survive. He didn't just endure, he found a reason to endure, a meaning that transcended his suffering. This mental and spiritual resilience, this unwavering belief in a deeper purpose, acted as a powerful force, shaping his internal reality and, in turn, influencing his capacity to navigate the external horrors. His story is a powerful testament to the idea that even when external circumstances are beyond our control, our internal response, our consciousness, remains our ultimate freedom and power. Another compelling example is the practice of mindfulness and meditation. For thousands of years, spiritual traditions have emphasized the importance of training the mind, cultivating awareness, and observing thoughts and emotions without judgment. Modern neuroscience now confirms the profound benefits of these practices. They can literally rewire the brain, reducing stress, improving focus, and fostering greater emotional regulation. What's happening here? It's not just about relaxation, it's about shifting our state of consciousness. By stepping back from the incessant chatter of the egoic mind and connecting with a deeper, more expansive awareness, we begin to perceive reality differently. We see the interconnectedness, the impermanence, and the inherent perfection in the present moment. This shift in perception isn't passive. It actively influences our experience of reality, making us more resilient, compassionate, and attuned to the subtle energies of life. The concept of entanglement in quantum physics offers another intriguing parallel. Two particles, once entangled, remain connected no matter how far apart they are. If you measure the spin of one, the other instantaneously assumes the opposite spin, even if they are light years away. This spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it, challenges our classical understanding of locality and separation. What if consciousness is similarly entangled? What if we are all, at a fundamental level, entangled with each other, with the planet, and with the entire universe? This would explain the feeling of deep empathy, the intuitive knowing, the sense of being part of something larger than ourselves. It would suggest that our individual actions and thoughts ripple outwards, affecting the entire entangled web of existence. This profound interconnectedness, once understood not just intellectually but experientially, can foster a deep sense of responsibility, compassion, and a profound appreciation for the unity of all life. It transforms our understanding of community, not as a collection of separate individuals, but as an intricately woven tapestry where each thread affects the whole. This understanding also sheds light on the power of collective intention and prayer. If consciousness can influence reality, then what happens when many conscious beings align their intentions towards a common goal? The results, while often difficult to measure scientifically in a controlled environment, are anecdotally powerful. From mass meditations for peace to collective prayer for healing, there's a growing belief that focused collective consciousness can indeed create tangible shifts in the world. This is not about magical thinking, but about recognizing the subtle yet profound influence that a unified field of intention can exert on the quantum field of possibilities, bringing desired outcomes into manifestation. The implications for personal transformation are immense. If our consciousness is indeed a powerful force, then cultivating a positive, expansive, and loving consciousness becomes the most important work we can do. It's about taking responsibility for our inner landscape, knowing that it is not just a private world, but a co-creator of our shared reality. This journey of self-discovery and conscious evolution is not just a spiritual pastime. It is the very essence of living a meaningful and impactful life in a universe that is far more wondrous and responsive than we ever imagined. It invites us to move beyond a passive acceptance of reality and step into our role as active participants in its continuous creation. Delving deeper into the interplay between consciousness and the quantum realm, several theories from science, psychology, and philosophy attempt to bridge this seemingly vast chasm. One prominent idea is the orchestrated objective reduction (OR) theory proposed by physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. They suggest that consciousness arises not from the complex computations of neurons alone, but from quantum processes occurring within microtubules, protein structures found within brain cells. They postulate that these quantum events, which involve superposition and entanglement, collapse into definite states, and this objective reduction is what gives rise to discrete moments of consciousness. While highly controversial and still unproven, OR offers a fascinating attempt to locate consciousness not just as an emergent property of the brain's classical activity, but as something fundamentally rooted in the quantum nature of reality itself. It suggests that the brain might be less like a computer and more like a quantum receiver or antenna, tuning into a deeper, quantum field of consciousness. Another perspective comes from the field of panpsychism, a philosophical view that consciousness, or proto-consciousness, is a fundamental property of matter, rather than an emergent one. In this view, consciousness isn't something that suddenly appears at a certain level of complexity, like in a human brain, but is present, in some rudimentary form, even in elementary particles. While this might sound radical, it elegantly sidesteps the hard problem of consciousness, how physical matter gives rise to subjective experience, by suggesting that consciousness is already there, woven into the very fabric of the universe. This aligns remarkably well with ancient spiritual traditions that view the universe as alive and imbued with spirit, where everything from a rock to a galaxy possesses a form of awareness or sentience. If true, it would mean that our individual consciousness is not an isolated phenomenon, but a localized expression of a universal consciousness that permeates all things. From a psychological standpoint, theories like those of Stanislav Grof, a pioneer in transpersonal psychology, explore non-ordinary states of consciousness induced by breathwork or psychedelics. His research suggests that our individual minds have access to vast realms of experience beyond our personal history, including collective archetypes, historical events, and even pre-birth memories. These experiences, often described as transpersonal, point towards a consciousness that is not confined to the brain or the body, but is capable of expanding and connecting with a larger, universal field of information and experience. This aligns with the idea of a universal mind or Akashic record, where all knowledge and experience are stored and accessible to those who can attune to it. It's crucial to acknowledge the current limitations of our knowledge. While these theories offer compelling frameworks, none have been definitively proven. The relationship between quantum mechanics and consciousness remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in science. We are still in the early stages of understanding how the mind and matter interact, and many of the proposed mechanisms are highly speculative. There is a fine line between inspired hypothesis and unsubstantiated claim, and it's important to approach these ideas with both openness and critical discernment. Scientists are still grappling with the measurement problem in quantum mechanics, the precise nature of consciousness, and how, or if, they truly intersect. However, the very act of contemplating these possibilities is transformative. It encourages us to move beyond a purely reductionist worldview, which seeks to explain everything by breaking it down into smaller and smaller parts, and to embrace a more holistic, systems-based approach. It invites us to consider that perhaps the most profound truths about reality cannot be fully grasped by purely objective observation, but require a subjective, experiential component, the very essence of spiritual inquiry. The scientific method, while powerful, is designed to study the measurable and repeatable. Consciousness, in its subjective, qualitative richness, often defies these limitations. Therefore, instead of seeking definitive conclusions, we are invited to hold multiple viewpoints in contemplation. Perhaps consciousness collapses the wave function, or perhaps the wave function is merely a mathematical description of a deeper, pre-existent consciousness. Perhaps consciousness is an emergent property of complex systems, or perhaps it is fundamental to the universe. The beauty lies in the exploration, in the willingness to sit with paradox, and to allow the questions themselves to expand our understanding. This intellectual humility is a hallmark of both true scientific inquiry and profound spiritual wisdom. It recognizes that the universe is far more mysterious and magnificent than our current frameworks can fully encapsulate, and that the journey of discovery is ongoing, unfolding with each new insight and each deeper experience. The conversation between science and spirituality is not about one proving the other, but about both converging on a deeper understanding of reality, each offering a unique lens through which to perceive the wondrous complexity of existence. In our fast-paced, technologically driven world, the insights garnered from the intersection of spirituality and quantum consciousness offer profound practical applications for personal growth and mental wellness. We live in an era of unprecedented information overload, constant digital connection, and often a pervasive sense of anxiety and disconnection. The ancient wisdom, now echoed by modern scientific inquiry, reminds us that true well-being isn't found in external validation or endless consumption, but in cultivating an inner state of peace, presence, and purpose. Consider the pervasive issue of stress and anxiety. If our consciousness is indeed a powerful co-creator of our reality, then the incessant loop of negative thoughts and worries can literally manifest as physical tension, illness, and a diminished quality of life. Practices like mindfulness, meditation, and conscious breathing, rooted in ancient traditions, become powerful tools for shifting our internal state. By observing our thoughts without judgment, we create a space between stimulus and response, allowing us to choose our reactions rather than being enslaved by them. This isn't just about relaxation, it's about reclaiming our sovereignty over our own consciousness, recognizing that we are not our thoughts,